Tucker Carlson addressed his head writer getting fired by Fox News for posting racist comments as recently as last week. Take a look.
What Blake wrote anonymously was wrong. We don't endorse those words. They have no connection to the show. It is wrong to attack people for qualities they cannot control. In this country, we judge people for what they do, not for how they were born. Blake fell short of that standard, and he has paid a very heavy price for it. But we should also point out to the ghouls now beating their chests in triumph at the destruction of a young man that self-righteousness also has its costs. We are all human. When we pretend we are holy, we are lying.
Well, so you kind of took issue with one particular part of this statement of his, Joy. Is that correct?
Well, I took issue with a lot of this whole thing. I mean, one of the things about it is he never addresses the actual racist, sexist, homophobic statements that the guy was writing about. So he just pretends that that didn't happen. By the way, he's no beauty and trying to act like he's an angel all of a sudden when he's the one who said that, you know, immigration is making the country dirtier. That's one of his gems. And also, by the way, the writer has said that, let me read it, anything he's reading off the teleprompter, the first draft was written by me, and notes that he and Carlson see eye to eye on most issues. So there you have it. No wonder he's taking an extended vacation. He knows that he's just as guilty as the writer.
Right. Well,
So
he did say he's leaving on a long-planned vacation, so that's probably going to be his last word on this topic. Was it wrapped up enough for you, Sonny?
No, I don't think it was. And to Joy's point, I mean, you know, Tucker Carlson does have a long history of making racially insensitive comments, of making culturally insensitive comments. I mean, he's one person that said that white supremacy was a hoax. He also said that Black Lives Matter wasn't about Black lives at all. And so he also has a history of making these kinds of comments. And I think what was most surprising to me is that he sort of tried to change the narrative and said that people were thumping their chests in glee over the destruction of a man. Well, what about accountability? What about responsibility? You know, this is a person who took it upon himself, Blake Neff, to make these horrific, vile comments. And I won't repeat them, but I urge our viewers to look them up because they are just so horrific and vile. And he chose to do that himself. And these are long-standing comments for over years. And so the fact that his career was destroyed is of his own doing. And the fact that he's now being held accountable for it, again, is his own doing. So for Tucker Carlson somehow to sort of try to blame shift here, I think is really, really despicable. And I wonder about this long-planned vacation. He seems to take a lot of long-planned vacations when it gets kind of hot in the kitchen for Tucker Carlson.
Right. Well, it just seems to me that, you know, he might have looked up to see what the gentleman said about him, which you referred to, Joy, when you said, you know, or you, Sonny, whatever comes out of Tucker's mouth is, you know, we're in sync with it, basically. So it's kind of, you know, I don't think anybody is joyously doing that, except that, you know, one less vile bunch of racist rants is probably good, you know. One less bunch of them is probably not a bad thing. I assume because you used to work for Fox that you're not going to speak on this?
No, I'm happy to speak on this. I was actually waiting for you to come to me.
Okay.
You know, I think about cancel culture a lot. And I think every person who's in mainstream media that has a platform probably at one time or another thinks about it. And every woman on this show, at one point or another, cancel culture has tried to remove one of us from this show for one reason or another. And by some miracle, we're all still here. And I think the greatest miracle is still me somehow being here because the New York Times put out an op-ed about 6 months ago, saying that it was basically dangerous to have a conservative woman with this kind of platform on this show. So I am against cancel culture, and I think one of the reasons why I'm always a proponent of Tucker Carlson is because I believe in diversity of opinion. I believe in the reason why Fox News exists, because that kind of opinion, doesn't exist on any other network. I obviously don't agree with what that writer said, and he should have been fired. But when I grew up, I watched Tucker Carlson and Paul Begala on Crossfire. This is probably like dating me. Whoopi, I believe you used to watch those kind of shows as well, like debate shows, like with Gore Vidal and William F. Buckley. And I think those kind of debates are really, really important. I think having different kinds of opinions, having a platform on national television, coming together to argue about these things is something that is really, truly American and truly original in our media.
Yes.
And the thing that I thought yesterday, because Joy and I got into it yesterday and then it was subsequently trending on Twitter, is The View is the last place this happens in mainstream media. And it occurred to me yesterday great for us, because again, Sunny, Whoopi, all of us at different times have gotten into it over different issues. But it's sad that a women's daytime television show, and I'm very proud of the work we do, and I'm not here to belittle it, but there's just no other platform for this. And I think when we're thinking about cancel culture, it just makes me sad that there seems to be we're at a moment in time where there's just not a place for people to come together and have civil and sometimes a little uncivil debates. But I'm fine with that, and I just really worry about the direction we're going in culturally when we're all going to get completely siloed in our corners and we're not going to have debates, because quite frankly, I like debating with all three of you. You're all incredibly smart, brilliant women, and it's a privilege to do.
Debating is great. What you do want to stay away from is you want to get rid of the racist aspect of it. And the racist aspect of it is thrown out there to keep you from making your points. And if we could, get rid of the racist aspect of it,
anything having to do with this show, I mean, that I'm
I'm talking about people like Tucker Carlson, where
that's a different perspective. I don't hold him accountable for his writer's actions in the same way that I don't hold any person accountable for someone they're attached to's actions. And I think, again, his writer 100% should be fired. What he wrote was abhorrent, hands down, full stop. But your criticism of his writer has turned onto a criticism of him.
No,
he has a lot to be criticized for, though.
Writer.
He has plenty to be criticized for.
The writer.
I'm talking at once.
The writer is known for his racist writings. I don't want to hear that when I want to go listen to Tucker Carlson talk about what's wrong with the left. I don't want to hear about it being challenging to me as a person of color, because you don't like my color. Tell me what you don't like about my politics. Leave my color out of it. And that's what I want, and that's what I want Tucker Carlson to do. And when he doesn't, and there is plenty to show that he is one that has spoken the words almost directly as this boy has written them, I have a little problem with that. And so I would hope that anyone who is promoting that.
I'm actually genuinely curious. Do you think Tucker should be? Should you think Tucker should be taken off the air?
It's not about cancellation. It's about accountability.
Well,
accountability, not cancellation.
Goes to you. Should he be taken off the air for what his writer has done?
You know what? The American way
it's not about
says,
what his writer has done, Megan. It's about what he has done. It's basically a Cyrano de Bergerac type of situation when it comes to Tucker Carlson.
Should Tucker Carlson be taken off the air? Should he be removed from the air for what he did?
I certainly think he should be held accountable for what he has said. He's called white supremacy a hoax.
You know what?
He has said that Black Lives Matter is not about Black lives.
He's
talked about dirty immigrants. He has said all of these things.
Well, I also think that people like Joy Reid should be held accountable for old blog posts they've put up that are very homophobic about members of my family and friends of mine like Clay Aiken. But for some reason, that's not something that's held accountable either. Every host in mainstream...
Actually, she was held... Wait, guys. Okay, we're going to break.
That I see with
we're going to break.
Okay.